Let's talk about leadership and security. And this is very important for everyone listening in here, especially from SEB, because you are world leaders, because you're always in the forefront, spending, learning, taking attention to what's coming on. And again, Chris, through the organization, we're bringing this knowledge. We have to, and I'd like you to basically remember this now. We need to use what we call the Sparkle principle of leadership in managing security and infrastructure. We are involved in critical infrastructure and resilience. It's very important to understand that this is what we do. And I'm going to use what we call the Sparkle principle. Sparkle, let's take the first letter S. You have success. You are very good at what you do at SEB because you are always coming out, getting new knowledge, using external factors, learning from the external and bringing it in to employ in your organization. So you have a world view and a world expertise coming here into your organization. So the first thing we do is the first letter is use this principle in your office. Sparkle, the first letter is success. You just have success because you take on that approach. You're bringing it here, you're on tonight, you're taking your time out, as you all are, to have this little conversation. So that's success in itself. P stands for purpose. Purpose withstands every single storm. Storms come when you have the purpose and your vision and your mission aligned at SEB, and I know you have a great team. You're a wonderful team. You're like family, and I miss you all. That purpose will withstand everything because it comes from your vision and your mission. Purpose. A stands for achievement. You achieve the goals of the organization, the needs of the nation to provide power for the economy, for defense, for safety, for hospitals, for everything. You're managing to keep that electricity going, especially through 2 years of COVID. It's really important. So you have that achievement. R stands for responsibility. Leadership is about responsibility. It's about standing up and saying, I will take responsibility and I will lead by example. Reassurance to your people. I am here. I am responsible. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm on the end of a phone. Everyone who knows me knows that's the case with me. You can contact me anytime. I'm always there. And I've got my head in this all the time, 24 hours a day. And so must you be those leaders for your team and the people around. Responsibility. K stands for knowledge. When you have your knowledge, you're increasing your knowledge all the time. So before today, you would have just seen on the news something happened in Afghanistan. Already now, after this fireside chat, you will know what Taliban is, where they came from. Now you will understand what their purpose was. Now you understand they wanted sovereign control. Now what happens, you know ISK, what it is and how they're challenging into an insurrection, which is going to destabilize security for a long time in the region. Why? Because Afghanistan never really had security. Now, when we understand, we have that knowledge, we form that into laddership. Laddership, not leadership, laddership. So the whole team at SEB, everyone's climbing up the ladder together. When you make a mistake, everyone falls down the ladder. You go up the ladder every day or you fall down the ladder. When you make mistakes, you're falling down, but when you make mistakes, you're learning and you're activating what can we learn from that learning and how can we put it in perspective. Then when we have that laddership in place, we form example. We can make examples and do tabletop exercises and say, okay, let's make an example. How can we create a fictional event and how would we handle that situation? When people see you doing that, when your new teams, new staff, new generations come to your organization, they're going to realize that this is a team that leads by example. It's the only way to lead people. So how do we really protect and manage and be leaders within the security and resilience field? We have to keep visualizing potential threats. We have to think like it's an offender, not as a defender. We have to work across 3 areas: the land, people infiltrating into your organization; the sea, which you're very close to, which is disputed territories and has a conflict with world powers going on. I think at the moment there's probably about 302 submarines operating in the Pacific, Southeast Asia right now, competing for domination of the sea. That's a lot of potential submarines. And I know already you've had a lot of incursions by the Chinese Air Force coming in over land. Already that's been happening there. So people are actually testing the security systems within that region. So we have world power challenges. We've got piracy challenges. We've got weapons being loosed from Afghanistan, which will find their way somehow into that region through Abu Sayyaf, and people being transported down into Mindanao for the war to create a new caliphate. And this is something that's going on a long, long time, which couldn't be stopped, which is still going on. But the danger of more advanced weapons is there. So the Sparkle principle. So we have success, purpose, achievement, responsibility, knowledge, leadership, and lead by example. This is how we take on challenges in the world. If you're waiting and just thinking that your security and your role as a professional, professionals make things look easy, amateurs make things look difficult. If you're waiting for someone to come to the gate and cause a problem, you're already losing. The world is changing politically, geographically. People are looking and creating big challenges for zero emissions with greenhouse gases. So we have to be thinking, how are we going to meet those challenges securely? You see, people who want to attack the system, they want to attack, but they don't offer a solution based to these challenges. So 3 factors we spoke about tonight: Taliban 2.0, ISK, you know who they are now. And then we have the implications for the region through proliferation, education, inspiration, and all these factors. Remember, just the act of terror in itself is designed to influence an audience. And it has 2 strategies. One, to find victims, to influence their audience. The victims become the messengers, and the messengers of the atrocity, the deaths, the bodies are designed as a message to give, to influence an outcome from a government organization to take them serious. Why? Because how do we measure threat? As professionals, we must remember, we assess the threat equals capability plus credibility and intent. So capability, credibility, and intent. When those 3 factors are taken into consideration, and we can see how much technology is going to be proliferated now through aviation equipment that's going to be taken to different countries, we always have to be aware of global events and how it impacts. And I know Singapore is on high alert already, and I know that Indonesia is on high alert at the moment in time for attacks coming or emanating from people coming from there, or people being inspired by what happened there. And that is always the challenge. And we know very, very well that with this type of terror and these type of acts of terror, suicide bombings, it's very hard to deal with these organizations because there's no center of gravity. And the more drones that are sent up to attack and take out leaders, it's going to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. If a world superpower struggles to protect an airport, to protect its rear, and having to fight a rear guard action to get out, it's going to be very difficult for civilian organizations to protect themselves. And the question has to be asked, when it comes to protecting the lights and keeping the lights on, your language influences the behaviors of organizations around. The last time I was down at SEB, I asked, can we make sure that you have more involvement with the police in relation to land, sea, and air, and authorities around you? Because without that power, if that power goes down, how long is it going to take to get that power back up? That's the challenges. These are the global challenges affecting power. We're in the power business. Without power, without infrastructure. And the last thing I want to talk about, managing and being a leader in security. You need to make sure that we're not just talking about the physical implications of us watching, observing. We have to make sure that your security is checked all the time. Your infrastructure, your computer, your software, your coding systems are good. There's no laziness. We're always maintaining, speaking to the IT team and saying, have we had any people trying to infiltrate? Have we had anyone using the system? Have we got anyone operating outside the firewall? Because when you're operating outside the firewall of the company, it's making the security of your system weaker and opening to hacking. And we've seen a lot of that now over the last 2 years with ransomware. Any questions?
No, that's quite a long session. No,
yeah,
I can't believe you didn't take
44 minutes.
Yeah.
44 minutes.
But yeah, I guess we have time to take one or two questions.
Mhm.
You know, if there are any. Any from your team, Taki?
Yeah, hi, Chris.
Yeah.
No,
Hi,
Sharon here.
hi, Poi
Yeah,
Ching.
yeah. I just have one question.
Sure.
With regard to Taliban 2.0, right? Okay,
Right.
so we've seen, you know, the allied forces and so on. You know, when they before they invaded Afghanistan, right? So they were very sure that they will win. Yeah.
Yes.
So with regards to you know that okay, we will crush the Taliban, we will crush them, all those you know those kind of statement. But why after 20 years only now they you know they sort of well, just like I said, you know, it took Taliban 20 minutes to you know to
That's
take
right.
control of the country. But of course, and I think before the 20 minutes, you know, I would also assume that you know the allied forces in terms of the security, you know, they might have relaxed a bit or something like that. So in your opinion, why now? Why did they surrender now? You know, because is it because there's no oil in Afghanistan? You know, it doesn't make them rich or something like that. That's my thinking.
I think far from it. Well, if you ask me,
Yeah.
I think
Like why now?
America, the leadership of America was under pressure. That was their mandate, right? One of the mandates to get their
I
people
see.
out.
Okay.
That's why he got elected in the first place. I mean, there was a promise, right? I will get my people out, or get the people out of there.
Yes.
Obviously, he was pressured to deliver on that, just like the previous President Trump was, pressured to deliver on certain things. But you know, Trump was different person altogether.
Yeah.
But why now is a good question. Yeah.
I think I know why now, because Afghanistan is still a very wealthy country, but
It is.
Afghanistan has never ever been a stable country, because Afghanistan is a warlord society,
Right.
and everything is ruled by warlords. And in Afghanistan, they have the Shura. The Shura is where the council, the Shura Majlis is where the warlords, and most of the conflict is south of the Hindu Kush. So what happens is, when you're dealing with a traditional tribal society like this, so you're bringing in soldiers from all over the world who've never been in a country like this. It's very hard to understand. To understand the origins of Afghanistan, you have to go all the way back to the time of Alexander the Great, which really wasn't great, because if he was great, he would never have to say he was great, but that's besides the point. When you understand the nature of Afghanistan, it's a very unique. It was never possible. I was actually in Brussels at NATO when they announced the mission to ISAF all those years ago. I was there and I went, this is a terrible mistake. You can't hold a people that don't stand and fight. You're trying to use conventional military forces with special operations in the background to fight war by detachment against people that don't stand and fight. It's the same. It goes through history. That's why they say Afghanistan is a deathbed of empires. And the only reason why the British ever went to India was to keep the buffer between Russia. And that's why, you see, that's why the Russians knew there's no military solution. So what happened, I believe the war went on longer than was necessary, is because people in certain countries, it's what they call industrial military complex, were making a lot of money from selling a lot of weapons, and the weapons trade took over. And we can see that with what the Taliban has actually received in a bounty. And you've even got apparently Apache helicopters, the world's most advanced helicopters, all at their hands. What are they going to do with them? They're not going to put them in the bin. They're going to end up around the world.
Actually,
what happens?
I would be curious to see how the relations with China pan out, because they were first in, to make those trade deals for resources, oil, and it's a land pipeline that's now direct to them. That's being
China and
piped to them.
Russia as well.
That's right.
Russia, I think, is one of the parties as well.
That's right.
Absolutely. And if you look at the amount of mineral deposits that's in Afghanistan to take them out of the ground, but Russia's been dealing with the Taliban for a long time, because they knew there was no military solution. So they needed to get into trade solutions. And you have a look what's happening with the Silk Road, and we look at the geopolitical security environment. And remember, as professionals, we have to be looking at the geopolitical environment because that has an impact on our nations. But what we will see is Afghanistan will be a breeding ground for terrorism again. ISK will offer complete resistance to the Taliban, so you're going to see a vacuum just keep forming, one of them trying to take over. You will see sporadic, you will see horrendous types of absolute horrific scenes coming out of Afghanistan. But what I'm concerned about, everybody, is how we manage this, because we're going to see infiltration, we are going to see emulation between Jamaat Islamiyah, and we're going to see it between different organizations like Jamaat Ansharullah, and we're going to, all of these are aligned to Al Qaeda and they're aligned to IS, Islamic State. Now, what happens is they will be fighting against each other in Southeast Asia, but I pray that their weapons will not be proliferated out of Afghanistan. But honestly, from my experiences of this over 30 years, that's what's going to happen.
Actually, you brought a very good point, Noah, because that's what I was looking at for this part of the world region. Would this Taliban 2.0 actually galvanize the cells in this part of the world?
Yep, absolutely.
To make them even stronger or more committed.
Correct, correct. So the challenge is on. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can't emphasize enough, we are going to see within the next 6 months even greater challenges through cyber of grids, national grids, global, international actors, state actors behind the scenes trying to hack into the computer systems. And I'm asking you to please make sure that you look at your procedures, especially the digital, because people don't even have to enter into the site. Stay and remember, monitor, stress test your electrical systems, look at your processes, look at your water filtration process, look at the electricity, look at the rate, the systems where your water inlets and your substations are. Make sure you are prepared, because this is absolutely coming down the line, that we're going to see more attacks on the national grids, because global power players are playing a game at the moment. This is it. Now, the longer staff are working outside of the organization, that weakens the security and resilience for the computer systems, the codings, the protection systems you have around your internet. And remember, we're seeing a rise in ransomware attacks. So we don't want to see people overseas coming in and taking control of SEB power services from a very, very powerful hacking system coming out of the Middle East. The whole of the Middle East is going to be destabilized for a while. The whole of this area, India, all these countries in and around, and this is all being largely funded by Pakistan. And everyone knows they're the ones that were behind Taliban. First, Taliban 2.0 have come out of the madrasas from Pakistan, all very rudimentary beliefs in life, and they don't even understand about women's values, the values and empowerment of women and their how they should be treated. I mean, look what happened to that young girl Malala, was shot in the head because she just wanted an education. This is nothing to what we're going to see. I pray we won't see it, but we have to remember this part of the region. And if you look at it on the map, you'll see Afghanistan. Have a look at the countries around it and see, just roughly see how close it is to Southeast Asia. Central Asia is going to be destabilized from this. Now have a look at Southeast Asia. Have a look at the communities in your own area and ask ourselves, how can we protect ourselves, cyber, from land, from sea, from air? And this is how we keep ourselves. We are threat hunters. That's what we do in our profession. And we are the leaders of our profession. I always say professionals act and fools react. That is why America had to leave the Taliban, leave and hand over, because there was not a winnable solution. Why? Because in modern conflict, every military will be denied the fruits of victory, because you can't win a conventional war against unconventional forces. And in the time, the bumper crop for cocaine, the opium, all this was a bumper crop. See, everyone has made money from this war, but the people will suffer. And we must be prepared for that globally. Anymore? Thank you for the great question, Tom.